Hello folks, welcome back. This is Chris in Central Pennsylvania. Well, the G20 Leaders Summit is over in South Africa. Cyril's big party, his big coming out party, which is really more like the G14, 6 countries, senior leaders didn't attend, all giving different excuses. Of course, the only country they attack is the United States, and we saw this repeatedly. On November 16th, the Foreign Minister Ronald Lamola went on CNN's Misinformation White Genocide special feature and said that Donald Trump is white supremacist.
That is fear-mongering to pursue the agenda of white supremacy.
You think Trump is pursuing a white supremacist agenda?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, that's a foreign minister. That's the second top ANC official, including their ambassador in Washington, D.C., Ibrahim Rasool, earlier this year calling calling America racist and calling Donald Trump the leader of a global white supremacist movement, which is utter nonsense. He was PNG'd. Ronald Lamola had no actions taken against him for his out of the bounds. He's supposed to be a diplomat, a foreign minister, and to say such things is ludicrous. Of course, then we see the black supremacy crowd and Twitterati and the white pink-haired and blue-haired tiny leftist liberals in South Africa crying about Carolyn Levitt refuting a lie by President Ramaphosa, trying to embarrass the United States. He goes in front of the cameras and laughs and chuckles and then says, the Americans have contacted us late in the game. Now they want to be part of this.
We have received notice from the United States, a notice which we are still in discussions with them over, about a change of mind about participating in one shape, form or other in the summit.
Because there is not a shift. The United States is not participating in official talks at the G20 in South Africa. I saw the South African president running his mouth a little bit against the United States and the president of the United States earlier today, and that language is not appreciated by the president or his team. The ambassador or the representative of the embassy in South Africa is simply there to recognize that the United States will be the host of the G20. They are receiving that send-off at the end of the event. They are not there to participate in official talks, despite what the South African president is falsely claiming.
No, they didn't. Read the note verbal. Either have better staff to inform you to understand how diplomacy works, or stop lying. One of those two things is true. You either got bad staff who misinform you, or you intentionally meant to annoy the United States. And so Cyril Ramaphosa, of course, falsely claimed the United States was trying to come to the summit, participate in some form or other. Those were his words. The United States never said they wanted to participate. They said they would arrive after the ceremony, after the event is over, to receive the presidency from South Africa. And then South Africa insulted America by claiming that the United States was sending a junior official. Well, number one, the chargé d'affaires is a senior diplomat in South Africa representing the United States, and he represents the President of the United States. That's the role the ambassador extraordinary and plenipotentiary plays, and the chargé d'affaires filling that role for an ambassador. So that was an insult to the highest order in clear bad behavior when it comes to Vienna conventions. Utter nonsense. In addition, the person we're talking about, Mr. Dillard, is a career Foreign Service officer who has private sector experience and has spent 27 years, served in South Korea, served in Japan, in Bulgaria, in Paris, in South Africa, in Nairobi, all over the world. He's one of the most experienced and seasoned diplomats we have. To call him a junior official by John Steenhuisen, by Vincent Magwenya, by Ronald Lamola, and by Cyril Ramaphosa is a deeply insulting statement, and they owe him an apology. He's not a junior official. He's a rather senior official. Only 100 and so number of people around the world are filling that position at any given time, if that many, representing the United States. So it's very shameful. Now, they could have simply said that we only want to transfer it to a minister or secretary or presidential level. That's different, rather than insulting the United States. They could have said something like that. Given the gravity, this is such a high-level event, we prefer to transfer it to the head of state. The president can't make it. One of his secretaries, if they can make it, we would like to transfer them. But beyond that, we feel it's inappropriate at the diplomatic level. That would have been an appropriate statement. But no, they choose to offend the United States yet again. And on top of that, Ramaphosa sits with, I guess, an SABC official where he chuckles and laughs about bad things are happening, a clear insult to the President of the United States.
Because as you know, there are a lot of very bad things happening, very bad things.
Terrible things.
Terrible things happening.
It's a disgrace.
Now, this summit The people who broke diplomatic protocol were South Africans, lying about the United States wanting to participate, which they never said they're going to do. They said they weren't going to participate. Trump said so, and no one participated. And then lying to embarrass the United States, saying they had a change of heart, which is utter nonsense. On top of that, Ronald Lamola going on television calling Donald Trump a white supremacist on the eve of the event was clearly intended to insult the United States. And in addition to that, we have Ramaphosa outside the building walking around when a reporter makes a statement instead of asking a question. You won't be bullied. That's not a question. That's a statement. And to which Ramaphosa says, no, we won't be bullied. The appropriate answer there for a real diplomatic response would have been bullied. What are you talking about? No one's bullying us. We're a sovereign state. We're South Africa. We have a difference of opinion with the United States. They've chosen not to participate in this conference. That's unfortunate, but states have differences. That should have been the end of it. But instead, he played the ass and said, we will not be bullied, and chuckled and laughed about it.
Well, without the United States, the whole process of the G20 is moving forward.
You will not be bullied.
We will not be bullied. We will not agree to be bullied. Thank you.
And the list goes on and on, these insults and slights against the United States. This is what we saw publicly. Who knows what happened behind closed doors? And I'll tell you what, if you're a member of one of those European countries that participate in this behind closed doors, your behavior will be known. People run their mouths. People record things. People will drop dimes on you. You better hope, Keir Starmer and Macron, you didn't say anything like that, because there will be a world of hurt coming your way. This abusive behavior towards the United States must stop. Must stop. And the irony here is the South African media, and even Western media, but especially South African media and Southern politicians, are claiming that South Africa is the victim here. South Africa is the antagonist. They're the ones whose ambassador attacked America publicly. They're the ones who abrogated the rule of law and suspended private property rights. That is South Africa in violation of their own constitution. The Expropriation Without Compensation Act violates Section 25 of the South African Constitution. We didn't do that. South African politicians did that. South Africa's parliament did that. Cyril Ramaphosa did that, not the United States. No, we're not the ones who did that. We're also not the ones that violated South African law by not announcing that the bill had been signed until 34 days after he signed it, thereby avoiding the legal requirement to allow members of parliament, 1/3 of them, to oppose it and go to the Constitutional Court for a constitutionality decision. It's Cyril Ramaphosa who broke the law, not the United States. It is Ronnie Lamola, Fikile Mbalula, Vincent Mangwenya, Crispin Piri, and Cyril Ramaphosa who've lied about the United States and falsely claimed the United States attacking. There's been no attacks in South Africa. The only thing that has happened is South Africa has had its foreign aid suspended, $500 million a year, because South Africa abrogated property rights. And then we have very well-known editors of publications in South Africa lying and saying the reason the United States is not coming because of extermination. Look, if at this point you're not bright enough to understand when Donald Trump says something, it's hyperbole. It's not Trump's words, it's his actions that matter. His only action is an executive order against South Africa suspending foreign aid because they've abrogated property rights and they have racist laws against minorities. That's it. That was February 7th. Nothing since then. The United States has done nothing other than PNG and Ibrahim Rasool, who said the most vile things as a diplomat. But not just a diplomat, the accredited ambassador. If that's how you feel about America, why are you in America? To fleece us of money? What was his other purpose in being here? To spread Islamic jihad? What was the purpose of Ibrahim Rasool being in America? Other than just to be difficult, if you really believe that way. I love South Africa. It's an amazing country full of amazing people. I would cherish and respect being appointed ambassador there. And I would never intentionally embarrass the president of South Africa in that role. Never do that. It's not the role of a diplomat. But that's what Ibrahim Rasool did. That's what your foreign minister did. That's not the role of a foreign minister, to attack a country that is giving you more money than you can shake a stick at. A country that has stood up for you in the International Monetary Fund, in the World Bank, in the African Development Bank. A country that it gave you over $350 million to develop a COVID vaccine. A country that gave you free access to the scientific formula, centrifuges, and all the equipment to make this stuff, and nothing was done. A country that took your insults about vaccine apartheid. So this whole thing is twisted completely around. The people insulting people are South Africans. And for the senior experienced editors at publications like Business Day and Times Live that can't see that, shame on you. You're carrying the water for a corrupt government that's lying about things every single day. It is South Africa that violated the norms, not America. America did not violate the diplomatic norms. We did what was required. My nation did. My nation informed South Africa that it wasn't coming. And it did it before many other countries did. Nigeria, last minute, didn't come. We don't see Redi Talibi whining about, Nigeria not coming. They suddenly not coming. Well, that was literally last minute. Nigeria didn't come. We don't see Redi Talibi whining about Mexico's Claudia Sheinbaum not going, or about Xi Jinping not going, or about Vladimir Putin not going. only whining about Donald Trump coming, because this is a concerted psychological operation, a yellow journalism, a propaganda effort to attack America. Why? You people are dumber than a box of rocks. You really are. You're really stupid, truly, truly stupid for doing this. I mean, we gave you duty-free access to our country for 25 years, 75% tariffs against our poultry imports, quotas on the number of American cars that can go into South Africa, while Chinese cars flood in with no limits whatsoever. But we even build cars in South Africa, and you still won't let us ship American cars over there. Limited number, we can go in there. You ban our pork imports to protect your protectionist measures, while we give you duty-free access to our marketplace. We give you $8.1 billion to fight HIV. We offered free antiretrovirals, nevirapine, to prevent the transmission of HIV from mother to child during birth. And you refused under Thabo Mbeki because of his tiny little ego and his racist tint to everything. We sponsored everything. We paid for gender-based violence, combating that in South Africa. Trade for South Africa. We provided resources to help you prepare the FIFA 2010 World Cup and counter terrorism. We've done joint military exercise. We've provided training for your senior officers at our war college, at our command and staff college, at our Marine schools, at all of our stuff, at no cost to you. You're a middle-income country, and we gave you free access. But other middle-income countries don't get that. We gave you access. We gave you free rides. And for 25 years, you crapped on us, starting with the refusal to sign Article 98 waiver for the International Criminal Court. And ever since then, it's been downhill. And the U.S. just took it, and we were stupid. We kept giving money. We kept supplying South Africa. We kept enabling the country to do what it did. And our reward is this abusive, insulting, shameful, disgusting, vile, repulsive behavior by your foreign minister, by your spokesman in the presidency, by your spokesman in Durko, by your president, who laughs and mocks our president. He's a small figure in this world. He seems to think that this is a great, successful summit. It wasn't. The other way that South Africa broke diplomatic protocol is they announced the declaration of consensus, which is a consensus. The United States didn't agree to it. They announced a consensus before the summit even began. That is a clear breach of protocol. You issue the statement at the end, not at the beginning. Also, let's talk about insulting people, all right? So who's insulting people? The United States offered to send the United States president's representative to receive the presidency from South Africa. But South Africa said, you got to come fetch it at Durko later in the week. In addition to that, they decided to hand it to an empty chair. So who's the one being insulting here? Who's the one that's out of order? It's South Africa's government that's out of order, not the United States. Unbelievable. Wow. South Africa's government has turned the G20 into a farce, a joke. The G100, Scott Bessent famously called it. Well, it's more like the G-million, as Ramaphosa claimed. G-million, exactly. That's exactly what it is, the G-million. Why? Because they think it's the UN. It's not the UN. And this is what happens when you let a country like South Africa, which has a socialist, communist agenda, take responsibility for something that's supposed to be a capitalist organization. It's ludicrous. And these idiot countries like India and others who are praising, and China, of course, who are praising South Africa for holding a great summit, it's ludicrous. Did any of them walk through the streets of Soweto? Did any of them walk through Alexandria, through Khayelitsha, through Chatsworth? Have any of them been to these places? Have any of them walked the farms of South Africa? Have they actually seen the victims of the horrible crimes that take place in South Africa every day? No. They didn't. None of them did. Because they saw the glitz and glam. And they were wined and dined in lovely, lovely places. And by the way, Dada Moreira claims that Johannesburg will be upkept now. How many days will it be before it all starts falling apart again? Don't hold your breath on that one. Dada Moreira is not going to keep that city going. Anyway, folks, the South African media will call this a great success and Trump has been snubbed. You know what? Delude yourself into believing that. Just like you idiots believe that the refugee program is only for farmers, and some of you believe it's only for Afrikaners and it's only for whites, and you're all just fools. You're lazy fools and propagandists. The U.S. Embassy website clearly says it's for racial minorities. And there are plenty of Indians and coloreds who've come over in addition to white, South Africans, Afrikaners, and English speakers. So keep deluding yourself and keep lying to yourself. You still have junk bond status. You still have 45% unemployment. The gangsters control your construction industry. The gangsters control your taxi industry. People are suffering. 90% youth unemployment. 8.5 million people with HIV and 600,000 with tuberculosis. Yeah, you keep telling us. You have cholera outbreaks in Hammanskraal. It's insane. It's insane. Your infrastructure is falling apart. But you go ahead and tell yourself that you had a great G20 summit by convincing Europeans to give money for the begging bowl and debt relief. Let's see how much of that actually comes your way. We get lots of promises from Europe. They promise to give this money to South Africa. They promise to do this. They promise to do that. But they almost never fulfill it. Never fulfill it. Seldom they fulfill it. Meanwhile, the United States has been carrying you for decades. And this is how you pay us back. Frankly, you're lucky Trump doesn't take action against South Africa's politicians for their behavior. Their behavior is insulting, reprehensible, vile, repulsive, and simply just tragic that they behave in that fashion. So kudos to South Africa. But I mean, who in their right mind thought that South Africa wouldn't be able to pull off this thing? They simply diverted fuel from Cape Town to Joburg and Waterkloof to make sure that OR Tambo and Waterkloof had fuel so these planes could get in and out. People couldn't fly out of Cape Town because there wasn't aviation gas. Yeah, of course. And they put 3,500 cops in Joburg to cover Nazareth. And then they beat people who showed up to protest. Did you think they weren't going to pull it off? Of course they can pull it off. Despite the fact that the country's collapsing, there's still world-class infrastructure in Sandton and a few places, and you can spruce things up for a few days. Absolutely. They spruced it up for the BRICS Summit when I was there as a journalist covering it 2 years ago. Of course they can put on a good show. They're good at dog and pony shows. It's about the only thing the ANC's good at. Certainly not good at governance, that's for darn sure. But pat yourself on the back. What a great G20. What a great 20. It's over now, so you can try to milk it, but South Africans have lost interest. 1.4 billion rand spent on this. Is that what it was? Something like that? 700 million for the city of Johannesburg? Okay. Well, that well is dried up. And South Africa, which has no money, South Africa, which has junk bond status, can only borrow money at exorbitant double-digit interest rates. South Africa pledged $36 million to the Global Fund, money it doesn't have. South Africa is a recipient from the Global Fund, and you're giving money to the Global Fund? It makes no sense. It's empty virtue signaling. Just like the debt relief, it's empty virtue signaling. Just like the begging bowl that Cyril Ramaphosa pushed here. It's all empty virtue signaling. This is tragic. This is tragic beyond belief. And if for those of you in the Financial Mail and Business Day and Times Live and News 24 and all those publications that want to keep saying that Trump didn't come because of white genocide, you're liars. That's not why Trump didn't come. The issues have been existed all year. And we've opposed this issue of turning the G20 into a begging bowl and demanding debt relief. You can shove your debt relief. We've given Africa debt relief over and over again. HIPC, the heavily indebted poor countries initiative, enhance HIPC, and then simply flat out debt relief. And every time you waste the money, you come back and try to play this white liberal guilt and colonization nonsense, and suckers fall for it and give you more money, and you steal it, and you spend it fruitlessly. You don't deserve debt relief. You don't deserve debt relief. Almost nobody deserves it. Does that hurt somebody's feelings? Well, it's the reality. Show me the cases where debt relief is paid off. Ghana did well, but now they're right back in the hole again. Mozambique has not done well. They didn't use money for good governance. They had HIPC twice. Billions of dollars forgiven. Country run by socialists. We give money to fascist autocrats in Zimbabwe so people don't starve to death or don't die from HIV. We give money to Mozambique, fascist autocrats, same reason. And what do we get? Fascist autocrats. ZANU-PF still runs that country into the ground every single day. ANC still runs South Africa, despite the fact that they're only a plurality party in the election. So you can pat yourself on the back of the G20, but it means virtually nothing. It's empty virtue signaling. It's just nothing. Nonsense. Nix 9 and yet 9 to Bahnhof. That's the reality of it. It means nothing. So go ahead and delude yourself in thinking it's a wonderful event. And for those who are going to attack me because I'm opposed to it, no, I never had any objection to South Africa being in the G20 because I think G20 is a farce. The G7 is it. Now, if Trump wants to invite Russia, if he signs a peace agreement, into G8. No, I don't buy that either. G7, that's it. It's enough. Russia's a rounding error. South Africa's economy is a joke. It's not even one of the 20 largest economies in the world. Why is it in the G20? Simply because of racists who felt bad that they need to include an African country. You want to include an African country that matters? You want to talk about a country that's run well, a country that actually does things, that's going somewhere? Let's talk about Morocco. And while I don't like the government of Ethiopia, you could probably throw Ethiopia in there. Much more successful than South Africa. Yeah. Anyway. Well, there you go, folks. No hatred towards South Africa, no hatred necessarily towards the ANC or the government of South Africa, but when you continually insult and attack the United States and then you want to pretend that you're righteous, no. You're not the victim here. You're the perpetrator. You're the perpetrator. You're a foreign minister calling our president a white supremacist on the eve of the G20. And you wonder why we're not there? We're not there because you wanted to push for debt relief and climate change, this religion of climate change. We are not going to transfer our hard-earned wealth to countries that fail just so you can steal the money and live high on the hog. Not going to happen. The pledge to your just energy transition, not just energy transition, it's a shakedown. It's racketeering. It's fleecing money from the successful and blaming them because you failed. You had all the elements to succeed in South Africa, ANC. You had a functioning tertiary education system. You had functioning hospitals and clinics all over the country. You had functioning primary schools. You had functioning infrastructure. True, several million people didn't have access to electrical grid or to pipe water. That's a true statement. That could have been fixed, but that hasn't been fixed. You still have people without those things. I can show you. I've been there. Riedvlei, south of Zeerust. 31 years after the ANC took over. No piped water, no paved roads, no sewage, nothing. All they did was deliver a couple portlets. They used to bring a portable medical thing, but now there's even no money for that because the city people stole the money, and now they have money for that. So no medical care. They live 30 kilometers south of town, but they're incorporated in that town. Yet it delivers nothing for them. Who runs it? The ANC. What more do I need to say? That's the reality. So pat yourself on the back. Job well done. Yeah, okay, you ran around, made jokes, laughed about Trump, laughed about America, but you're going to regret those comments. You're going to regret them. Just a matter of time. Eventually people wake up. They voted for the Nazis. Remember that? 33% of the population voted for the Nazis in 1932. 33. Yeah. And 40% of the population voted for the ANC in the last election. But things change. People eventually wake up. Apparently, 81 million people supposedly voted for Joe Biden. People eventually woke up. What say you, South Africa, Mzansi? Cheers.